Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Nerds with Friends. My name is Cody Leach. As always, I'm joined by Christian Garcia.
Hola.
What up everybody? Welcome back to the show. Today, on today's program, we're going to be talking a little bit about Kang the Conqueror, who he is, and how he kind of leads into Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty Marvel movies, which are slated to come out in like 2025, I think, right? Or 26, something like that. And we kind of got the idea for this episode from our last one, which was all about Ant-Man. Make sure you guys check that out. I'm adjusting my mic. Sorry about that. And, we were kind of wondering on last episode why people were giving Ant-Man Quantumania poor reviews. Like it's sitting at like 48%.
Yeah, but those are critics. The audiences, I think, is at 80-something.
Right. And I mean, Rotten Tomatoes obviously is not the perfect, aggregate for finding out if a movie's good or not, but it's what a lot of people use, right? And we were wondering, like, why is it so low amongst critics? And we were kind of thinking that it's probably because this is the first time a Marvel movie has really been like full comic book, right? Like everything else has been somewhat grounded, like Thanos was kind of built up slowly, and he's just kind of like a Darth Vader type character who's collecting these stones, and everyone can kind of get behind that. Now we're kind of talking about multiverse and multiple versions of yourself and different dimensions and timelines, and that may be a little much for the average movie goer. So we figured we'd kind of try to do our best to explain who Kang is, where he came from, and kind of what this multiverse saga, as they're calling it, is going to be about. Before we do that, though, please make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us on the social medias and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. And check out patreon.com/nerdswithfriends and support the podcast monetarily if you could. Just a few little shekels would be nice. And before we get into all that, let's do some nerdy confessions where we confess the things that make us nerds. What makes you a nerd, Christian?
My nerdy confession is you've inspired me, Cody. You inspire me every week, but you've inspired me to do more artwork.
Nice.
Me and the missus like watching you paint the minis on Twitch. Make sure follow and subscribe.
Oh yeah, check out. I should remember to plug that. Yeah, twitch.tv/Cody1 WON Kenobi.
But I'm definitely not going to paint minis, for sure. Just right now, before we were recording, you showed me the stuff he was working on, and just holding it and seeing how goddamn small it is with the brushes.
Let's talk about my penis.
Yes, and then with the little brush, you got to tickle a little bit.
Got to tickle the tip.
There's not enough veins, which is I was going to put some more. But just it gave me anxiety just looking at it and like trying to paint the face, which is incredible, the stubble and the eye, even the little shine on the eye that you did. Yeah. But I want to start making, I also was inspired by our buddy at Speakeasy. I want to try making some Magic the Gathering cards. Whether I don't plan on selling them, it's just more pet project for me. But I want to do some, and this is, I'm saying it here so that you guys can helpfully hold me accountable to make some Dark Tower cards. So
yeah.
I'm going to ask Cody to write some of the lettering. Me's not goods with the words since I'm ESL, but definitely half decent with the images. So I want to try to do some Dark Tower cards. And I Google searched some guy did some, and they're pretty good. The artwork was taken from the Marvel comics,
sure.
But the mechanics of the cards, this is kind of dope. What they did with Roland and the Man in Black. I don't think I saw a good
Crimson King.
No, that'd be rough. But I guess you can do a god. No, I was gonna say Oi. I didn't see a good Oi card.
Yeah, the Billy Bumbler.
Yeah, nice, dope little Billy Bumbler. I have ideas for mechanic stuff, but again, I'm not fucking. I can barely play Magic, let alone am I gonna try to write some mechanics for the cards.
Yeah, I think we've at least I feel like I've gone too far enough in my. Also, there's a freaking like hurricane going on outside. So if you hear that, that's what it is wind. But I feel like I've gotten far enough in my Magic career where I can kind of like, I can see a card, know a little bit of the story behind it, and see why they put the mechanics they did into it. So I think that would be a really fun exercise. The only thing I worry about is like, the mana cost and making sure that things aren't. I mean, we would just play them with each other kind of thing, so it's not that big of a deal. But trying to make something so it's not too undercosted or too overcosted, I think that's one of those mechanics thing that like I want to get right. So I think it would be a fun project though.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we can even get to do it. I got to get myself to fucking do art first. So
yeah,
but yeah.
Inspire
me, Cody.
I think that would be fun. And I mean, I feel like that would be a fun thing to do, regardless, do like, that's basically what the secret lair is for Magic the Gathering, where they're like, hey, what if Street Fighter was in Magic the Gathering? Or hey, what if The Walking Dead? And, love it or hate it, like it's a cool idea, I think.
I love it. I know there's some people out there, the misses, who hate the idea of bringing outside stuff. I personally love it because it fits the lore of the game. You're pulling creatures. And,
you're going from different planes.
Yeah, from different planes of existence. I personally like it.
Yeah,
I thought she was going to.
I mean, well, the whole reason I started playing Magic was because of the Warhammer decks. That's what sucked me in. Was I was like, ooh, Warhammer stuff. I guess I better learn how to play this because this looks cool. And like, I still love playing those decks. My Necron deck is one of my favorites of all time. And the Imperium of Mankind one is also very, very good.
Which one did you use? The poison one.
The poison one's from New Phyrexia.
That was New Phyrexia.
Yeah, or the Phyrexia All Will Be One.
No, the Warhammer was the one with all the tokens.
Yeah, right? So that's the Imperium of Mankind one, which is Marnius Calgar as the commander, and he can create his own tokens, and he has double strike, and he lets you draw a card whenever a token enters the battlefield. So a really good card draw engine where you're like, oh, let me play this card, which gives me a token, and let me, pull a card. And then I have Smothering Tithe, which gives me a token. Let me pull a card. And then let me do this, which gives me a token and pull a card. So it's just really, you get a lot of tokens and you get to draw through your deck really quickly. The Necron one is all about the graveyard synergy, where it's like I have one thing where it's like, here's a piece of equipment. If that creature dies, he comes immediately back to the battlefield and stuff like that. Or, I can dig through my graveyard and pull out this guy. I can exile my whole graveyard and make however many creature or however many artifact cards I have. It creates an insect token. So I like that one. I like that graveyard.
I feel like the villains are always overpowered, man. Good guys never.
Yeah, good guys are always fighting an uphill battle. That's why we like reading the stories, is because
That's true.
It's a underdog story. All right, my nerdy confession. I watched this new show on Netflix. It came out in 2023, so it's got to be pretty new at least. Called Lockwood and Co. Have you ever heard of that one? So it's
Lockwood and Co. No.
Lockwood and Co. Lockwood and Company. And it's based off of a young adult novel series. I don't remember the author's name, but it's about these these ghost hunters essentially. And so apparently in the setting of the book, in the world, there's something called the problem. At least that's how it's referred to in the show.
The problem?
The problem.
Okay.
And you can guess what skin color it is. I'm just kidding. No. This thing called the problem. I think that's what it's called. And where basically ghosts start existing, right? Because generally speaking, most people don't think ghosts exist. And essentially, they find out that children up to the age of, call it 17, 18, something like that, so teenagers and younger can see or sense ghosts, but adults can't really. And basically if a ghost attacks you and touches you, it sucks your soul out or something, and you basically go into a coma forever and you never wake up from it. So they have these different ghost fighting companies who have universities and stuff who raise teams of ghost fighting children essentially, and send them out to like exercise houses and things like that if there's a ghost. And it's all about like, a ghost is attached to a source, like like a ring or a locket or whatever, and that's what's holding the ghost to our plane. So you have to like find the source and burn it or whatever. Classic, supernatural type stuff.
Salt ring
Yep.
and fire.
Yep, salt ring, iron. They all carry iron rapiers to like ward off the ghosts, like to kind of defend themselves, to keep them from being ghost touched. And I watched the whole show
I'm
because
sorry, my mind just went to ghost touched and children, and it was bad.
Can't let the ghosts touch the children.
Show me on this doll with a ghost touch.
You're just like all comatose. Like, okay, well, never mind. Yeah, so it's an interesting world and an interesting premise. But one thing I think that the show fails at, because I want to say it was 8 episodes long. One thing the show fails at is kind of going into more detail about what the problem is, where it came from, what's happening. Like it just kind of throws you in this world, and you have to really pick up what's going on from like context clues and such. And I'm not opposed to that. I think good storytelling will get you there, right? Like one thing we see in The Last of Us is like we're learning more about the world as we're in the show, right? Even though we've played the games and whatnot. But I don't mind a little bit of that. But it's like some stuff like, like for instance, the iron rapier swords that they're using, right? Like they're like, okay, this is your best line of defense against the ghosts. But then they also have these little like flash bomb things that apparently keep the ghosts away. And like, what's in there? I don't know what's in there that makes it so the ghosts don't like them. And then like sometimes they use a sword and it doesn't do anything. Like, so are the swords good? Are they not as good? Like, what are we like, explain a little bit to me, when you're when you're introducing a world that has a complex concept, which is like these ghosts are real, right? We need a little bit more information on these like weapons and stuff they're using. But overall, I think the show is fairly enjoyable. The cast, the main 3 kids in it are fairly, they have good chemistry and it makes it interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely kind of want to read the books. I feel like the books would do a much better job. But interesting show, worth a watch. If you're not into it by the first 2 episodes, I'd say forget it. But it kept me interested long enough to go through the whole series. And I would like to see where it goes next.
I was just kind of thinking like I would create a fake company where I would just give kids swords and run around, there's a ghost, and just have them do the poking and stuff. Oh, we just got rid of it. That's going to be $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
There was no ghost there. You can't see him. What do you know?
Well, there's that's another thing is like, there's like a governing body. I forget what the acronym initials or whatever of it were, but there's this policing agency who is constantly getting down on Lockwood and Co., which is this small independent ghost hunting business run by a teenager named something Lockwood, and these 2 other kids, but they don't have a handler or supervisor, which is an adult, to take them around and I don't know, supervise them. And so that's like the whole deal is they're constantly getting into run-ins with this governing agency because like you're like, oh, you need a supervisor. You're against the rules. You're a loose cannon, Lockwood, and I don't like it. That kind of stuff. And it was like I wanted to know more about them and like what the structure of this agency is and whatnot. But and like the big companies that are run by like multi-billionaires are like the bad guys, it's like, oh, that's so-and-so from that company, it's not these guys. Again, they come in, they got the snappy uniforms and stuff. They're like, oh, what's up, Lockwood? it's funny seeing you here again. They're like bullying them and stuff.
I would love to see on this show, like I feel with events like this, like I'm just thinking about COVID, like when politics come into play, when one side says like this is happening, the other side has to take the opposing view. Like just to see like the non-ghost people, like the anti-maskers.
Ghosts aren't real.
Yeah, ghosts aren't real. And just seeing like what stances they would take.
Yeah.
And they get all locked up. No, it's lockjaw. I don't know. No, it's just something else.
Yeah,
like,
it's fake chemtrails.
Yeah. just to see, I would do that.
They're turning the frogs gay.
They're turning the fucking ghosts gay. Just to
There,
see.
so there was one scene where there were people who were like protesting like these ghost companies because they felt like we should be welcoming them because they're like, you know, they're like our ancestors or whatever, you know, they're like out there like, bah, you know, go home, you know, that sort of thing. And I was just like, the ghosts kill people basically. We should not let them stay around.
Just build the wall around the ghosts.
Yeah. And then there's like, it was just a bunch of little things that kind of added up throughout the show that kind of bothered me. Was like there's a curfew at night because apparently ghosts are stronger at night, but then they're always out at night. Like, so what is the curfew? And then when they're out at night, they're getting driven around in taxis, so they're out at night too.
Yeah, well, those guys got special permission.
Yeah, maybe like
The taxi's made of whatever the sword is made out of.
Oh yeah,
so
like iron or something, wrought iron. Wrought iron taxi weighs like 10,000 pounds.
Yeah, it's fine. So extra horsepower.
Yeah. So little things like that just kind of like kept adding up, and I'm like, okay, but tell me more about that. Like, I don't care about like how this kid's got bullied in his school and that's why he quit and came to Lockwood and Co. It's like, I want to find out like, why are the ghosts here, you know? But still, like, it was still fairly entertaining. Pretty good production value and special effects and fight choreography and stuff. So yeah, check it out. Let us know what you think about it. Okie dokie. Well, let's take a little break, and when we get back, we're going to be talking all about Kang the Conqueror, or Immortus, or Ramakul, or
Ramatut.
whatever. Ramatut. We'll be right back. And we're back. Okay, so you may have watched Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, or maybe you've just been watching some videos on the internet and you're like, who is this Kang guy? And, you know, he's not one of these comic book characters like Thanos where he's like, oh, he's just a really bad guy who floated in space and he's collecting these rocks to destroy half the universe. It's not a simple this, you know, road to villainy for him. He's much more complex, which is why he's always been kind of an interesting character. But being complex means that he's hard to kind of portray accurately. So we figure we'd kind of break down who he is, where he came from, and what versions of him we will see in the future. So you've done a lot of research on this, Christian. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Kang, or Nathaniel Richards?
Well, so it's speculation because he himself doesn't know if he's actually a descendant of Reed Richards or Doctor Doom. So he suspects that he's, or maybe a combination of both. Maybe they, you know, future, you can have two dudes have a baby. Why not? I don't know.
They just three-way to a Sue Storm.
Yeah. Okay. That's a comic right there.
I'd read it.
So he's from the 31st century, and he decides that he wanted to go into Egypt.
Right around. Oh no, I was the 31st century. I was gonna say he's almost around Warhammer time, but that's the 31st millennium.
Yeah, a little bit further.
A little bit further. I can't wait till they get to that.
That'd be crazy. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they'll mix. Marvel likes to mix properties too, but I doubt they'll do 40 Hammer.
Yeah.
So he makes it to Egypt because he wants to be the father figure to Apocalypse, and I don't remember Apocalypse's original name.
It's Apocalypse from the X-Men.
From the X-Men, yep. So he wants to train him and have him be his minion, and he gets there in a Sphinx time-traveling machine, and
it's pretty good foresight. You know, if you're going to go to Egypt, you better like show up in a pyramid or something. You know what I mean?
Sure. That way they know, oh yeah, he belongs here.
We like those. That's like literally our whole thing.
And when he gets there, the Fantastic Four happen to be there, and they obviously stop him.
You're here too? We're here too. In ancient Egypt.
And thus,
comics are crazy, guys. If you haven't figured that out.
Yeah, and we were gonna get into it later in the episode, but I think that's why the movie, like you mentioned, it's not resonating as well because comics are goofy. It's not written by one person who has a vision of the entire thing. It's written by a group of people who have to pick up where the other guy left off.
And they need a new issue like every week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh shit, like, Stan Lee created, was it, or Jack Kirby, I think, did Kang, didn't he?
They both did.
They both did. They created most of Marvel Comics when starting out. Also, they created Black Panther. So, think about that. Two Jewish dudes creating first, like, well-known African-American or African superhero. So they create him, but they can't write all of the books all the time. So eventually it gets handed off, and you're like, oh shit. Well, now I have this guy who showed up in like 4 issues of Fantastic Four and was defeated. Let's try to bring him back. But what's his, like, where does he go from here kind of thing? So I think that's one of the things that the MCU, like, you might not know this or realize this, but the MCU has done an incredible job of making these guys all feel like they're in the same universe, right? When initially, like, the first Captain America comics, there was no Iron Man, there was no, Ant-Man, there was none of the Avengers. He was a wartime comic that came out in like 1938, I think, is the first Captain America comic. The very first cover is him punching Hitler in the face, which is awesome. And he was created as like this almost like wartime propaganda caricature, just like he was in the first movie. But the movies have done a good job of, like, showing that side of him, how he was held up by the army as this, like, to sell war bonds kind of thing. But then he was super powered, and so he eventually comes into our time, and that's how the Silver Age of comics has brought him into like the Avengers and whatnot. So, like, crazy shit has happened in comics, and the MCU has done a very good job of, like, condensing that into the very need to know stuff. The Infinity Saga, or the Infinity, what was it called in the comics? Infinity Gauntlet?
Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah. So the Infinity Gauntlet comic books, like the main story arc, was super crazy. Thanos was in love with Death, right?
Lady Death,
who is like the embodiment of death in the universe. And so, like, the whole reason he was like getting after the Infinity Stones was trying to impress her so he could literally bang Death.
Yeah. He figured if I destroy half the living creatures in all of the realities, she'll love me because she loves Death.
She's like, that's her whole deal. And obviously to do that in a movie is crazy, because first you have to introduce Death, and that there is a embodiment of Death,
which they kind of did with Hela, but
sure, she's a goddess of death, and there's other gods of death througut the multiverse.
Yeah, I mean, he was actually after death,
like death, like capital D death. So they've done a very good job of, like, coming up with slight alterations to these characters to make them more believable in the same universe, because they do have the foresight. They can look back on all of Marvel Comics and say, like, okay, this is where it started. This is where we're trying to get to. How can we cut this down so it's not, 100 issues of comic books to get here? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, go.
So the Fantastic Four obviously stop him, and that is what causes him to decide, oh, these guys are my number one enemies, and he's going to go and try to stop them wherever they show up. And then obviously he starts showing up in different timelines because he has his time machine. So he figured, all right, ancient Egypt didn't work out. I'm going to go to a different time.
Yeah.
And there's way different story arcs of what he's trying to do. At one point, he sends the Incredible Hulk into World War. I don't remember if it was World War I or World War II.
He would just fuck either one of those.
The whole point of why he did it is like, I need him to go and destroy this one cannon that would have hit his grandfather, and if it did so, then the Hulk would never be created. And he's always doing weird, goofy
trying to rewrite time,
and that's his whole ordeal. He wants to take over all timelines all at once, so he can be
the ruler of
everything. But he's also has different So anytime he shows up, obviously you're going to create a different
variant.
Yeah, of himself there.
Which we've seen in the Loki show.
Yeah.
Right? The TVA was created by Kang as like a way to police all these different variants. A version of Kang, we should always say.
In the movies, in the comics, they are their own.
They are their own thing.
Their own agency. At which point they capture a Kang,
and he plays like the Loki character essentially.
Yeah.
Where he's like absorbed into the TVA and he's going through like a midlife crisis and stuff.
Yeah, trying to stop the other guys from becoming. I don't. Now at this point, I don't remember if it was Kang, if it was Immortus. Or there's also the Prime Kang. There's so many Kangs, it's hard to keep track of them.
Yeah, and which is slight spoiler. We see a little touch of this in the end of Ant-Man Quantumania in one of the post-credit scenes. And if anyone who's watched Rick and Morty knows like the Citadel of Ricks, which was basically a play on this Citadel of Reed Richards's that they made in the comics. But it's a similar idea. All these versions are working together, where the Reed Richardses obviously were working for good for the most part, but the Kangs are working together for evil.
Would it be Reed Richard Die?
Yeah, Reed Richards.
Redie? Isn't it? Don't you add an I when there's an S?
I think it would be. He's not a cactus. Yeah, I think it would be like Reed Richards with a little apostrophe on the outside of the S. But So Immortus is one of the more prevalent versions of Kang, which leading into the Secret Wars will have a bigger role, I think.
Which I don't know. I know a lot of people, I know they've mentioned Secret Wars, and I know we saw at the end, so we already hit the spoiler button, it looks like Battle World. I'm not too sure, though, we were talking about this before we started recording, if they're going to go into the Secret Wars, or they would, I mean, if they do, it's going to have to be a whole bunch of different rewrites from the comics, which we obviously know they've done, but I'm wondering how they're going to tackle it without a Doctor Doom, which kind of, and I had mentioned this last episode, it pisses me off that they didn't even introduce or hint at Doctor Doom if they're going to the Secret Wars, because he has such a huge part, and because he's tied into the being a possible descendant, or Kang being a descendant of Doctor Doom. Like, they should, it was just right there.
I know
they could have just done it.
Maybe Armor Wars.
Maybe, I guess.
I'm trying to hinge a lot on Armor Wars. Which we still don't know a whole lot about. But I think Armor Wars, which is, it was going to be a TV show, but they've now switched it into a movie. So it makes me think that they think it's more important than a TV show, okay? Because they're cost about the same amount of money, right?
Yeah, and particularly with 6 episodes or more, sure.
Right, but I think a movie will get more eyeballs in front of it. So I think they're thinking that's going to be a more important story to tell. And we know that Rhodey or War Machine is going to be in it. So is... I'm
assuming Ironheart.
Ironheart should be in it too. I think she's already confirmed to be in there. And so it makes me think that we might get Iron Lad introduced, who is a young version of Kang, who starts the Young Avengers, who is a good guy, right?
We should say, yeah. It's a good version of Kang.
He's a good version of Kang who starts the Young Avengers to kind of help prevent him from becoming bad Kang.
So Kang, as smart as he is, does some goofball moves. So in that storyline, he goes back in time to stop a bully who bullied him, which kind of makes sense. You know, you'd think a bully probably set him on his path. But he gets hospitalized by a bully, so he figures, I'm going to go and stop this from happening. So he goes back in time, and young Kang sees future Kang. He's like, oh, I turned out to be a dick. And so he's like, I don't want to be a dick. So he steals that Kang's time-traveling machine, and he goes and he uses it, and he becomes intelligent himself, and he becomes Iron Lad, or he takes his suit. I'm sorry, he takes his suit, becomes Iron Lad, and he starts the Young Avengers.
Right. And now, if they create Iron Lad, and they have Rhodey, and they have Iron Heart, who's a bad, classic way of doing a bad guy is like, oh, he has similar powers, but he's evil. Like, who has sick ass armor based on technology, and is a bad guy? Doctor Doom.
That's true. But the thing is, and I hope they don't go this route.
Yeah.
And my fear is that they're going to go the route of it just being mostly technology, but he's also an amazing
black magic user.
Yeah, magic user. So,
and I mean, they can do that, right? Like, they can relate it back to, maybe something like Shang-Chi's rings or something like that, right? Which is maybe magic, maybe technology. We don't know.
Alien tech.
I actually
tech.
watched a video online that suggested that the rings are Kang tech.
Okay.
Because if you look at a lot of these movies, there's a lot of like Kang's in Quantumania. Kang's time ship is all ring based, right? There's rings floating all around him, right? Then in the Eternals, when they wake up from being hibernation or whatever, they're surrounded by rings too, right? And then Shang-Chi's rings, they're like, ooh, we don't know where this is from. It's not in any of the databases. Maybe because it's from the 31st century or whatever, right? So, and then there's the 10 rings of, Mandarin kind of thing. So maybe they're trying to tie everything back to that.
So not going to go the Fing Fang Foom route? Like...
I don't know. Fin Fang Foom is a rough one. His name is just... And I mean, like, his name was supposed to be like an alien name, but it's obviously kind of playing off of like some Chinese character. Whatever. I don't think we're gonna see a Fin Fang Foom, and if we do, his name will be slightly different or something. But anyway, I think that maybe they might start off Doctor Doom's magic use as like he's got like some Asgardian tech or Kang type tech, and we don't know if it's magic or technology, right? And maybe they'll expand on it later. Where he goes back in time and learns from Morgan Le Fay and all that kind of stuff. I think it's okay to start him off as just a technological billionaire evil Latverian guy, right? And then he grows later because he does in the story too, right? He doesn't start off as a magic user. He just starts off as a colleague of Reed Richards who gets disfigured and accidentally melts a mask to his face. So like I think we could see him introduced in Armor Wars. That would be my bet.
See, and I'm assuming what they're going to do is they're not going to make
fighting Doom bots. How sick would that be?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be fucking great. The Doom bot, and you never know if you're fighting an actual Doctor Doom,
yes, or
if it's a Doom bot. But I think he's not going to be from Latveria. I think they're probably going to make him from Sokovia.
It'll be like a border of Sokovia, because they've related a lot of stuff. It'll be like, Latveria is right next to Sokovia, and we had to deal with all the freaking refugees from Sokovia, and that's why he rose to power. He was like, nah, fuck those guys. You know what I mean? Like I could see them doing something like that. They're like, yeah, what you guys did in Sokovia, ruined my country. That's why I had to step in and take over and implement the Doom bots to police our country. I could see that being the storyline. Sure.
And I hope they do a Doctor Doom and a Submariner, team up before the Submariner, goes on the hero side. But
he's another good foil for the Submariner. The Submariner is he's like a stepping stone in between T'Challa, Black Panther, and Doctor Doom. He's in the middle of those two. He still is,
For the most part, actually throughout his history, he's probably 50-50 villain and hero. It's just recently he's mostly been on hero's side. Right. Dickish hero. He's a hero, but he does things kind of dickishly.
Yeah, he's definitely like an anti-hero guy. He is like what I see as the true definition of an anti-hero, where he's always out for his own self-interest. He's always protecting, Atlantis or what they call it. Not Kukulkan. That's his name.
No, that's
Kukulkan.
Oh my god.
Doesn't matter. Atlantis, Aztec, Mayan, Atlantis. So he's always got their interests first. If that aligns with the Fantastic Four, then he's fighting with them. If it's something the Fantastic Four or whoever is doing that's harming him, he's like, nah, fuck that, and he'll fight against me. He has no qualms with battling against heroes as they're known, because he doesn't see it that way. He's a protector of his kingdom, essentially. Man, he's had some great interactions with both Doctor Doom
and the Fantastic
Four. He's notoriously has like a huge thing for Sue Storm, and he's always trying to like wile her away from Reed Richards. And he'd be like, I was like, all right, I'll help you, Fantastic Four, but I need a kiss from Sue Storm. And she's like, what? And Reed Richards was like, oh, you bastard. And he's like, no, let me do it, Reed. It's for the world. And he's like, she liked it. Yeah, so he's a crazy character. But I would like to see him and Doctor Doom maybe do a little team up before Namor like comes to senses and becomes more of a mainline hero kind of thing. But yeah.
In terms of the Secret Wars, though, like since we're talking
Right.
Doctor Doom and how we got into it, it's going to be tough to do it without Doctor Doom because he's one of the biggest players in that whole saga.
So let's give a brief rundown of what Secret Wars is.
So the Beyonder who lives outside of the multiverse, beyond the multiverse, which is why it's called Beyonder, a little pocket hole gets cut out in through the multiverse, and he's able to see. And he is everything and anything in the beyond. So he's just his own entity. He is the entire universe. Through that little hole, he sees our multiverse. He's like, oh, there's people. There's humans. These guys are interesting. Oh, look, they're all one being, but they all think that they're all separate beings. What's separating them? Oh, desire. He's like, what's desire? I want to know what desire is. So he decides to put them all. He's like, oh, there's these superpowered guys. Some consider themselves good. Some consider themselves bad. Let me put them in one place, and I'll let them, figure out their desires to defeat each other. Whoever wins, I'll give them whatever they want.
Yeah.
They can just have it. And that is a very, very brief rundown of
Secret Wars.
Of Secret Wars. Now, that is going to be a tough fucking pill to swallow in terms of a fucking film.
Right. Which is why I think Kang and like the Kang dynasty, all the different versions of Kang can be a good stand-in for the Beyonder, right? They've created essentially a society unto themselves, and they have their own views of what the timeline should and should not be. And for some reason, they're going to make all these superheroes from different timelines, different universes fight each other and for the fate of everything, right? I think that's a fairly easy rewrite, especially if you have, maybe Immortus, who's one of the Kangs manipulating everything behind the scenes. Maybe he has somehow entrapped a Celestial who can be a stand-in for the power source of like the Beyonder, to create things like Battle World, which is the whole world where people battle, right? And I think that might be the direction that they're kind of leading everything into.
It's the only direction I feel that they can go.
They have to, right?
They have to. I mean, I can't. They haven't introduced anything that powerful yet. And that would be a great power
there
source.
was Eternity in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Not as strong as the Beyonder.
Yeah, I mean, Eternity is not beyond. It's everything else, So, but I mean, they have started playing around with the ideas of these very powerful beings, both the Celestials, the Eternals themselves, of which I think Thanos is technically an Eternal. Right?
He is,
or he's like half Celestial.
He's half.
He's half Eternal. That's what he is. He's half Eternal
deviant.
and half deviant. And then we did get introduced to Thanos' brother Eros in the end of was that was the Eternals, right?
Yeah.
So we are doing some cosmic stuff too. So and we're getting Adam Warlock too, which again, why introduce him now that the Infinity Saga's over? But
yeah, he was one of the biggest players.
100%.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
He's like the one who's like, hey, everybody, Thanos is after the Infinity Stones. We should stop him. And he's like the leader of everyone, and now he's being introduced.
And Doctor Strange were like the biggest players in that.
Yeah, he is. I mean, and that's one of these rewrites that we're kind of talking about. Iron Man basically took his role.
Yeah.
In the Infinity Saga, right? The kind of leader of everyone against Thanos, who had the premonitions early on of what was coming and kind of guided them. So,
and another big baddie entity that they haven't introduced and they have yet to get right in the films is Galactus. So, I don't know. And he's such a great character because you see him as, he just goes around, devours planets like this mindless being. But in reality, he has a much bigger part to play, and he's not as bad as people think. And
he actually becomes a good guy.
Yeah, he doesn't like devouring planets.
Yeah.
In fact, he fucking hates it, but he knows he has to do it. He has to do it because he's holding back something bigger and worse, and it's the only way of holding it back.
Right.
But he doesn't tell anyone because it's none of their goddamn business. That's why. That's his fucking job to worry about.
It's above your pay grade.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat your planet. That's all you need to know.
That's all you fucking need to know.
I sent the silver guy to tell you. He was supposed to explain everything because
I didn't have to do that.
I get tired of telling people the thing over and over again. It's not my fault you didn't listen to him. You tried to blow him up.
He said I was going to do it.
Yeah, he said I was going to
believe him.
Why are you surprised? I am so juiced to see an actual Galactus. You know what I mean? Like,
hopefully it's not a stupid fucking cloud.
Yeah, I know. I rewatched those old Fantastic Four movies again, and it's like, God damn it. The Silver Surfer actually looked really cool.
Yeah, he looked great.
He kind of got taken out by a chump, but it was Doctor Doom who figured it out and stuff, so I can kind of understand. But
I have high hopes that they're gonna do Galactus right because I really liked the way they did Dormammu in the first Doctor Strange. So he looked great. So if they go that route,
as bad a movie as the Eternals was, I think the Celestials looked great.
They looked great.
You know,
they looked how they do in the comics, and
the way
they did a great job making them look massive and stuff.
Yes, and how they kind of appear and like they. You know, how they looking over a planet and stuff. Like, I think they nailed the look and the scale of them, really well. So, yeah, dude, I would love a fucking Silver Surfer movie where it's all the story of Norrin Rad and how he becomes the Silver Surfer.
Oh, but the thing is, he's going to be Norrin Rad the majority of the time, and it's a bunch of, they're going to destroy my planet.
Well, here's what I think it would be, is it opens, okay, everyone mark this down, because in 2030, this is what's going to happen, I'm sure. I think what it does is it starts off with the Silver Surfer coming to a planet as the Herald of Galactus. And then you see Galactus, he's eating the planet, and he's telling him, like, Galactus is nigh, prepare yourselves, or whatever. And, him maybe blasting some people and taking out whatever the planet's defenses are. And then it flashes back to him as Norrin Rad, and they kind of bounce back and forth, and you see who the character is, and then eventually, maybe at the end of it, it's him, deciding that he doesn't want to be the Herald of Galactus, but you got to get the Fantastic Four in there somehow.
Have to.
I know. So maybe that's how the movie ends, or the show. Maybe a show.
Yeah, because, for the most part, when Galactus gets beat, it's usually Reed Richards' idea. He always has an idea of how to... In fact, it's one of
He's the one who, always, he talks the Surfer into, going against his master and stuff in the first place.
Or figuring out Galactus' power source, and, we can just reroute that energy source to us, or not let him power up. It's always Reed Richards' big mess, his big old brain, who defeats him. In fact, it's one of the few humans that Galactus respects. Like, he's the only human that he would speak to directly because he sees how smart he is and he respects it. So, which is one of the things that happens in Secret Wars. But who knows? I don't think, at this point, I don't know when the fuck we're getting the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. It feels weird not to have them because I think that movie is after Secret Wars. I'm pretty sure.
He's in Secret Wars, so... The only thing I know that I feel very strongly that we're going to get is Spider-Man in the Venom suit.
Yes.
That's probably about it.
It has to happen. That's the most famous cover ever, Secret Wars, and he's in the black suit. There was just recently a leak, and who knows if it's real or not, saying that Tom Holland was going to be the lead for Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. So...
Nice.
That'd be pretty cool.
There's a cool scene, spoilers for anyone who hasn't read the comics.
Hasn't read any of and we're talking about the initial Secret Wars too. There has been a more recent
There's
one.
2 and there's a 3, yeah.
Oh, there's a third one?
Yeah, there's a third one. Fuck. 2 is pretty wacky enough. They're definitely not going to get into the second. Or who knows, if they do, and this is going to piss off a lot of people, it's going to have to be oh my God, everyone hated him for a bit. Thor Ragnarok.
Christian Bale?
No, the director. I'm blanking right now.
Oh, Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi. It's the only way to do the second Secret Wars. The Beyonder decides to take a body, and he goes to Earth. He's like, I want to try this human thing out. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, what do you guys do here? Oh, love? Let me try love. You're going to fall in love with me. And it's like, oh, I don't like this. It's forced. No, okay. What do you want? Death? Oh, you guys are all scared of death? Death is gone. No one dies. Fuck it. Everyone lives forever. And then, Mephisto's like, hey, you can't do that shit. I need souls down here.
Mephisto, I think, is also in the first Secret Wars too, isn't he?
Not a big...
Oh, he's in Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it was.
So, yeah, I mean, Secret Wars 2 gets real fucking wacky.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's been the third one must be the more recent one I'm
yes.
thinking of, right? They just redid it. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully this is kind of like, I don't know. Hopefully it's cleared up some of who Kang is. And
I'm pretty sure we just made it fucking worse.
Just made it way worse. People tuned out. They're like, dude, fuck this. Fuck the next 10 years of Marvel. I can't keep track of that.
Comics are fucking wacky, but it's why we love them. They have a great way of taking weird, wacky ideas, but making it fucking work, man.
So Avengers Endgame has the time heist in it, right?
Yes.
That's a wacky idea that I feel like they did extremely well.
Yep.
They did a good job explaining it because, like, you're explaining it to Scott Lang, who is the everyman stand-in in that group, right? And, they explain it in such a way where it makes sense, it's palatable. And I think the Loki season 1 also did a very good job of this. So I think they're just laying the groundwork now, which is why maybe some people haven't been satisfied with the MCU recently. But I think they're doing a good job of laying the foundations of the zanier, weird comic world. So hopefully we'll have some cool movies in the future. The only thing that concerns me, like we've said before, is the timeline of everything, right? No Fantastic Four before Secret Wars or X-Men.
Or X-Men.
Right?
X-Men are a big fucking deal. And I think...
They were also in Infinity War too, though. So
And the thing is that there's a great way of starting X-Men or the Avengers versus X-Men in the Secret Wars, because there's actually great dialogue between some of the X-Men and some of the Avengers, and particularly between... and it sucks that... Steve Rogers is gone, but there's a great dialogue between Captain America and Wolverine, because Magneto's there, and this is his first time where you're starting to see him possibly switching sides from being a villain to being a good guy, because he's in Battle World. He's like, all right, I got to work with these people. They've been the majority of the part. We've been enemies, but now we have to do this to survive. And the Avengers like, no, fuck that guy. All he ever does is evil shit. We can't trust him. And Captain America's like, yeah, no, that's a no-go. We can't trust him. And
you lie down with dogs, you wake up with fleas.
Yeah, exactly. But Wolverine's like, hey, man, fuck you. Like, yeah, he's done some bad shit, but he's always looked out for mutants. And none of you guys have ever looked out for mutants. He's like, and you're a great guy, Cap. He's like, you look out for America and you look out for America. He's like, but you've never considered us one of your own. When have you done anything for mutants?
Yeah.
It's like, you haven't done anything for mutants. I was like, God damn, that's a great fucking line by Wolverine. And
Wolverine, ever the politician.
Yeah. And we're never...
That seems like a Cyclops thing, you know what I mean?
A Cyclops, that's where he stops becoming the leader of the X-Men.
Yeah.
And we actually get Storm, who takes over. But,
yeah, that's right.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many great things that happen that we know we're not going to get to see in the movies, and it's because they haven't introduced all these other things yet. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it'll be great. But there's going to be some things missing.
I have faith. Like, a lot of people are, like, kind of unsure about the MCU now because they've had some shakier shows and movies recently, but like watching Ant-Man, we both really enjoyed that movie.
It was great.
The Black Panther 2 was fantastic. I think we're on. We also really liked Doctor Strange, which got panned as well.
Yeah, dude, it was. I mean, but I love Sam Raimi, so
yeah, exactly. And it is. It is kind of a zanier storyline, multiple dimensions, multiverse of madness. Like, I think if you're a fan of the comic books and you like the comic books for the fact that weird things can happen in them, I think this multiverse saga will eventually pull you in and really grab you. So I have high hopes. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Are we totally off base? Are you done with MCU, or can you kind of are you excited for Secret Wars? Are you excited for Doctor Doom? And I'm telling you, I think Armor Wars. We'll have to clip this if that comes to fruition. If Iron Lad, Ironheart, and War Machine is like the mentor to the two of them, right? And you got Rhodey teaching a young Kang how to be a good dude, right? And then they're fighting against Doctor Doom. I'd fucking watch that movie.
For sure.
God damn, that'd be so good.
You know what we didn't see at the end of Quantumania, and I was hoping they would show, is King Kong, but they didn't show
King Kong, yeah.
They didn't show King Kong.
King Kong. So silly. They did show Skrull King.
That's in the comics, guys. I'm not making that shit up.
You saw the Skrull King, right, at the end?
No.
Yeah, there was a Skrull. Well, at least he had the kind of the Skrull chin and ears and stuff.
Oh, damn, I missed that.
Yeah, fuck yeah. All right. Well, we got Secret Invasion coming up too, so who knows? Maybe we'll see a little bit more of that. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments. Like and subscribe while you're down there. It really helps us out. Check out patreon.com/nerdswithfriends to help support the show today. And, Christian, thank you for being the Immortus to my
nice. I got the
Rotut or whatever.
Ramatut.
Thanks for being the Iron Lad to my Immortus.
I'll take it. I'm the good guy.
You're the good guy. To all the nerds out there, remember, you're not alone. You're with friends. This is Nerds with Friends. Thank you and good night.